Colorado's active in the transfer portal. Sky is blue, clouds white, sun yellow, and hot. Yeah, these are all equally surprising things. Kevin Borba, Locked On Buffs, joining me here to discuss. Has Colorado gotten better so far with the spring transfer window and guys who they've had enter into the program? Because I like a couple of their additions, but then there are a couple of departures where I'm like, oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think they've gotten better. Honestly, we could touch on the departures real quick just because of the guys that left. I think there was like one that really hurts, and that's Isaiah Gustav, the running back who came in from Arkansas. And this isn't necessarily to say that he's a superstar by any means. I mean, Colorado had the worst rushing attack in college football last year, so don't know if any of them are actually like superstars. But he was like the best of the group. So losing him hurts. They lose Savion Riley, who was a safety that provided some depth and I thought had a chance to start. But I really like their addition of Memphis offensive line transfer Xavier Hill. He could play inside, outside, was Memphis's highest graded player, has a ton of starts under his belt, was an All-American, like the conference type player. He could have been an All-American, right? Like,
yeah, I'd never thought about that before. I was an All-American selection. Oh, you're best in the country, best in the conference, not still good. Yeah. But I've never had that conflation before. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
So it's a little dicey there, right? It's like you could say it, but it's like you have to be a little careful. But either way, or I guess you could say all AAC honors. But
let's confuse the hell out of people, Kevin. Yeah, let's mess with them.
An All-American selection. He's massive. He is a large human being. And I think Colorado, even though they've brought in, he's 6'4", 325, by the way, for those keeping track at home. Colorado brought in, I think, 5 or 6 other linemen in the other portal. And I'm convinced that they're like, we're going to bring in so many linemen that we have to find a combination that's good. And I love that, right? Because when you give up, I think Shedeur was sacked 94 times in 2 years in Boulder, en route to getting his jersey retired. He fought.
We're talking about that today, by the way.
He fought through a lot, and that line was terrible, right? Had that line been average, I don't think there'd be any discussion if his jersey should be retired. And then they also went out and got wide receiver Sincere Brown, big dude out of Campbell, 6'5". He's kind of a mystery to me. He started his career at USF, had 1 catch in 2020 or 2021, then didn't register a stat for the next couple years, ends up at Campbell and just balls out. And 6'5", like I said, offer some size, and then they lost a receiver today from their recruiting class. So I think all in all, it's been a net positive, and I think they're far from done. Right? It's Coach Prime's. It's his prime time. No pun intended. Actually, pun intended.
I was gonna say that pun has to be intended. There's no way that was accidental. Oh, I just slipped it in there. It slipped out. Yeah, I just said I didn't know. But I look at what Colorado's done in the portal in the last couple of years, and I expect this every single cycle, winter portal cycle and spring portal cycle, because this is what they do. They have not leaned heavily into high school recruiting. They are building primarily through the portal, and you can think that has limited upside, but it's hard to argue with the results that he's had. Like, if you took away all the offseason chatter about Deion Sanders and all the stuff off the field and non-football, and you just looked at, hey, he inherited a 1-11 program with 2 winning seasons in the last 20 years, and he went from 1-11 to 4-8, from 4-8 to 9-4. You'd say this is an upward trajectory, and that he's doing the right things. He's got a contract extension, of course, as a result of that. So I understand why he's continuing to go down this road, being so heavy in the portal, because, well, I mean, it's worked so far. Now, there's a slight difference when you're in this situation and you don't have a top 10 pick at quarterback and the number 1 player in his class who goes on to win the Heisman Trophy as a receiver and corner. When you don't have those 2 guys who are a big part of what you did, that's now that makes this somewhat of a measuring stick sort of year. Like, okay, what you got? I think for that reason, Colorado is a slight pullback team. I don't think Deion is incapable of succeeding without them. I just think those 2 guys were so heavily involved, and they were such a big part of what Colorado did last year. I don't think they're going to be able to get to that 8-9 win threshold. I think that's going to be tough. I don't think their schedule is super easy. They've got to play Georgia Tech, who's a really good team, and they're going to be working in a new quarterback, whether that's Juju Lewis or Caden Salter. So I think that they've done some nice things in the portal. I talked about Sincere Brown on the show a while back when he first entered and thought, this guy's kind of an intriguing prospect, bit of an unknown. I don't think that they have brought in such a haul of talent, though, that you feel, no Shedeur, no Travis Hunter, they're fine.
Yeah, I think it's a lot harder to build around a team when you don't have two. We'll call them first round picks because obviously we don't know where Shedeur is going.
That's what they are.
Yeah, 2 first round picks, 2 potential top 5, top 10 picks. It gets difficult, but at the same time, I've liked the progress they've made in the portal. It seems like there's an actual method this time around compared to the very first 4 and 8 experiment, where it was just like take anyone that breathes that has interest in Colorado. Now they're being selective, and I think that's going to work in their favor. And I do think the difficult part about building this team now is you have to find guys who I think you moneyball Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, right? You bring in Caden Salter and you bring in Juju Lewis. You're doing so hoping that one of them is going to be really good. So that way you don't have to sort of have an implosion at quarterback. Travis Hunter, you have to moneyball the hell out of him, right? You don't get to just replace a top tier corner and receiver easily, right?
You got to recreate him in the aggregate. That's what you mean by Moneyball.
Yes, correct. You need someone who gets on base.
Yeah. What does he do?
He gets on base. But yeah, I think the combination of having a method works, right? They're going after experienced guys, some of them with extra eligibility, which makes it a little bit of a long-term investment. And then I think Deion Sanders, like you said, winning games, I also think that helps, right? I think there's no more mystique. There's no more mystery to, oh, does this work? Because guys want to play for Colorado, and they have wanted to play for Colorado, but there's always been 2 holdups. One, it's does this really work, or is it just like a fluke? And 2, is Deion Sanders going to stay long enough for me to be a part of this? And so Colorado's answered both of those questions this offseason and this past season. I think we're going to see a lot more from them in the spring portal because there's a lot of big names out there, and one of them who just came off the board was Nico to UCLA. Apparently, just got that.
Is that breaking as we're recording the segment?
Breaking news.
Because Colin Coward had tweeted that it was.
It's from him. It's a done deal. I thought it was something else.
Okay, yeah, okay. I was wondering if we were breaking a little news. Yeah, peek behind the curtain. Podcast segments get recorded all over the place, but we have to close with this if we're talking Colorado, Kevin, because I'm just every time I start to get in the camp of people are criticizing Deion too hard. He's a good guy. He wants the best for the kid. I think he does have those qualities, but Shedeur and Travis having their numbers retired is crazy. That's crazy. It's it's such an epitome of why people don't like Colorado, and Deion doesn't care. He doesn't need to. Fine, but when you wonder, if anyone ever wonders, like, man, why do people hate on Colorado? This right here. You're retiring the 2 numbers of, yes, a Heisman Trophy winner. Tim Tebow's number isn't retired, by the way. Tim Tebow. One of the biggest names in the history of college football, who also won a national championship, doesn't have his number retired at a program bigger than Colorado and more famous than the Buffs, historically speaking. But Travis and Shedeur, 9-4 and hang it in the rafters. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I think this is a complex situation, right? I talked about this on my show, and I'm very lukewarm on the situation because, one, if we're being honest, I don't think anyone's upset about Travis Hunter's jersey being retired, right? He is a generational college football player. I think we all agree. It's very rare that you see someone. It's never happened, at least in our lifetime. And when football helmets have face masks, it has not happened where someone has played receiver and corner, offense and defense, and dominated as much as he did. He wins the Heisman. He wins 8 major awards, right? Travis Hunter is legitimately a college football legend. I don't think you could tell the story of college football without Travis Hunter. I think where most people are upset about.
Well, okay, you can say that about any Heisman Trophy winner.
I could very much.
A lot of Heisman Trophy winners don't have their numbers retired.
I could tell the story of college football without Jameis. I could tell it without Mark Ingram. I'm talking about guys.
How do you? Wait. Jameis won a national championship at Florida State.
That's true. I'm just you're not gonna if someone's give me the highlights of college football, are you gonna be like, there was this guy Jameis Winston back in the day? Who are you more likely to bring up, Travis or Jameis?
More likely to bring up Johnny Manziel than either one. What's your point?
Another good one, right? Johnny Manziel probably should have his jersey retired if he does.
He doesn't have his jersey number retired at Texas A&M, I don't think.
Here's the thing, and let me get back to it. I think most people are upset with Shedeur's number being retired, and I get that. And I have multiple stances on this, so we'll walk through each one. For starters, every college football program, like Spencer mentioned, Florida State, Texas A&M, They all have different standards, right? It's not a universal like, hey, if you win this amount of games, win this amount of awards, and you do this at our program, you graduate or whatever, you'll get your jersey retired, right? Not every program has that. Some programs have retired legends and some have not, right? Tim Tebow, Graham Mertz wore his number last year, right? Graham Mertz. No disrespect to Graham Mertz, but Graham Mertz. Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty has not had his number retired at LSU, and he is generationally, I think, one of the best quarterbacks we have seen, and no retirement there, right? Other guys have walked through college football, had their numbers retired. And then there's been a guy like Phillip Rivers who had a very solid career. This guy on Twitter attacked me because I compared him to Shedeur, and Shedeur statistically has way better numbers than Phillip Rivers, but Phillip Rivers' number was retired while he was active. He was in shoulder pads while he got his number retired. So I think there's different standards for everyone. I think in terms of Shedeur getting his number retired, the part that most Colorado fans have outrage with is there's Darian Hagan. There's a bunch of legends that have come before him, Cordell Stewart, that have not had their numbers retired. And I think the hard part about this is that's on Colorado, right? That is not on Deion Sanders. Now, Deion Sanders could say, hey, retire their jerseys, but now it's just a little too late for that, right? That's been on Colorado. They had all this time, right? Rashad Salam, everyone remember him, the Heisman winner for Colorado, didn't get his jersey retired until he died. He died. It was like 20 years later. That's on Colorado for not recognizing him sooner.
I guess.
You have to blame the program. Don't blame, and this is the hard part about it. People are blaming Shedeur and Travis as if they like petitioned for this and said, hey, I'm starting a GoFundMe to retire my jersey. Like, they didn't do that.
Well, I mean, if they didn't want it to happen, I imagine it wouldn't happen.
Right. But I just think they both change the trajectory of the program. You can no longer talk about Colorado football without talking about them. And it's one of those things where they are legends for Colorado, and to Colorado, that means something. Does it mean the same thing at Texas? Probably not. Does it mean the same thing at Ohio State?
Yeah. Okay. All right. I hear your point. Up next in jersey retirement, Sam Levitt at Arizona State changed the trajectory of the program.
Scatterby, baby.
Yeah. Cam Scatterby. Yeah, those two guys are next. Micah Hudson is not next for a major college football program.